Okay, so it's Sunday, September 2nd, and this is my audience. These are all adults. Okay. All right. So I'm Jamie Mesta, and what I'm here to tell you about today is the Allman Brothers Band. The Allman Brothers Band has been touring for 43 years. It started in 1969 by Duane Allman. And unlike what most people think, that it was really all Greg Allman, it was started by Duane, and Greg was actually the last member to join the band. And when he showed up, Duane introduced him to all the other people in the band, and Greg said, well, that's a lot of guitar players. What am I here for? And they said, well, you need to learn to play the keyboard. And that's how Greg Allman came to learn the keyboard. So, the Allman Brothers started back in, like I said, 1969, and the boys grew up in the Deep South, Macon, Georgia, Daytona Beach, and Tennessee, Nashville, and their mother was actually a single mother, which was kind of rare back then. But in 1949, when the boys were 2 and 3 years old, their father, an Army captain, was murdered by a guy he met shooting pool at the local bar the day after Christmas. Really sudden, really shocking, and because of that, the boys just grew up with their mom. And being that that was hard back then, the mother sent them off to boarding school. Not just any boarding school, military school, something that their father would appreciate. This is kind of funny because later on, things really did change for those boys when it came to their feelings about the military. But in military school, they developed a real sense of honor. They did well in school. Greg Allman was actually supposed to become a doctor or a dentist. That was his plan right up until after he graduated high school. But instead, they decided they didn't really like military school after a while, and when their mom was done getting her CPA license, they all just moved back in together and started living a normal kind of life. The boys were still good in school, but they, got around and started going to see concerts. Jackie Wilson was their first show, and that was their first introduction to what the sound of, other than the Beatles, instead of all the white bread and the British invasion, they had some real music. They had the kind of music they listened to with their Uncle David, their father's brother, who used to sing also. And what they learned was that the music that the black folk were singing in the rural Southern South, that was the music that really touched their soul. So they played this pop music, they played the Beatles, they did all that, and then they learned the good stuff. And that's where they really got their influence. So when the band started back in '69, they started off with something that nobody ever had before, 2 drummers. And not only that, they had Butch Trucks and they had J-Mo. J-Mo it was a big deal to have him in the band. As a black man touring in the South with these white boys in the late 60s and early 70s, they were frequently told, you can't stay here. He can't come in. He can't be in the hotel. And so they all slept in the bus because that was their brother, and that's who was with them, that was family, and that was that. So unlike popular belief that Southern rock is really about redneck, most Southern rock is really a blend. And it's a blend of really good blues, and it is not at all about race, and it is not at all about the KKK or anything like that. It's about real music and real people and the joy of bringing that music together. So, being that we were in the 60s, Duane and Greg both got their draft cards. And being that they had given up that whole military thing, and they were just into being in peace and love and all that other stuff, and they did not want to go to Vietnam, and being that they had gone to military school, they knew exactly what they were getting into if they did go into the Army. So they both found ways to dodge the draft. And I must admit, I was pretty shocked because I just found this out, and I've been listening to them my entire life and going to their concerts my entire life. Well, Duane Allman tried to pretend to be gay and a mental case, and it didn't work. And the induction sergeant said, boy, you're going to Leavenworth or you're going to Vietnam. Those are your choices. But then, as luck would have it, they lost his card and he just never got called. And he just never went, so he got lucky. Greg, on the other hand, said, well, that's not going to work twice. So when he got his card a year later, he decided to shoot himself in the foot. And they had a foot shooting party. And because Greg had one time wanted to be a doctor, he looked up a chart of a foot and decided where it was best to shoot himself so that he wouldn't do too much damage. And he did. He drew a bullseye on his moccasin, shot himself in the foot, and they went on to the hospital, and doctor fixed it up and said, yeah, that's not so bad. And he got out of going into the Army, and that was that. Very surprising story, because these boys are really into being good citizens. They actually raised a lot of money for Jimmy Carter in 1976 by holding concerts to raise money for him, and I thought that was also another really surprising fact. So nowadays, what you've got after 43 years is a few original members. You've got Greg Allman, Butch Trucks, J-Mo. They're still there. You've now got the new Latin influence of Mark Quinones on alto percussion. I don't know, if you've ever seen an Allman Brothers concert, you have no idea what drums are like until you see these three men back there with every different kind of drum and cymbals you've ever seen in your life. It is incredible. You've got Oteil Burbridge is the bass player since in the 90s. Derek Trucks, Butch's nephew, is on slide guitar. And Derek Trucks is basically Dwayne Allman incarnated. Everybody says that, but he's so much better. Dwayne Allman played for about 5 years. Derek Trucks has been playing his entire life, and he is amazing. I've also met him and most of the boys in the band, and they're all really great, nice people. So the reason for telling you all about this today was to basically teach you something about the music, and having been to their concerts so many years and just went to my 45th show in the city in March, I can say that the age range is about teenagers to 70-some-odd years old. And so if you haven't been to a show, I hope you'll look it up. I hope you'll go to a show or listen to some music so you can find something you like. Thank you for listening.